The ship came down from the sky on a Tuesday evening when the sun was painting everything orange and pink. It made no sound at all. The people in the small town of Pine Creek, Montana, did not see it because the ship had special technology that made it invisible. Only the birds knew something was wrong. They flew away from the trees in big groups, screaming their warnings to anyone who would listen. But 7-year-old Emma Thompson was not listening to the birds. She was too busy building a fort out of sticks and leaves in her backyard. Her mother had called her for dinner 10 minutes ago, but Emma wanted to finish just one more wall. The fort was going to be the best one she had ever made. Lying next to her in the grass was Biscuit. Biscuit was not a dog or a cat. He was a honey badger, and he was the strangest pet in the whole town. Emma's father, Robert Thompson, had rescued him 3 years ago from some very bad people who were selling wild animals illegally. The animal control people said Biscuit could not go back to Africa where honey badgers normally lived. He had been with humans too long. So the Thompson family kept him. Most people thought the Thompsons were crazy. Honey badgers were not nice animals. They were mean and angry, and they bit everything. But Biscuit was different with Emma. From the very first day, he had followed her around like a shadow. He slept at the foot of her bed. He sat next to her when she watched cartoons. He let her pat his rough fur and scratch behind his ears. Emma's mother said it was like magic. Emma just said Biscuit was her best friend. Right now, Biscuit was watching a beetle crawl through the grass. His small black eyes followed it carefully, but he did not try to eat it. He was full from dinner and feeling lazy. High above them, Commander Thrall looked at the human child through his viewing screen. He was a Volrani, a species that looked like a giant insect standing on 2 legs. He was 7 feet tall with hard shell skin and large mandibles that clicked together when he talked. His eyes were completely black and showed no emotion at all. "That one," he said, pointing at Emma with one of his 4 arms. "The small female. She will be perfect." His lieutenant, a reptile-like alien named Voss, leaned forward to look. "She is very young, Commander." "Are you sure?" "Young is good," Thrall replied. "Young means the adults will do anything to get her back. The humans are weak that way. They love their offspring too much. It makes them easy to control." Voss nodded slowly. He had seen this before. The Volrani had been taking children from different planets for many years. They used them to make the adults do what they wanted. "Give us your resources. Give us your technology. Give us your planet, or your child dies." It always worked. "There is a creature with her," Voss observed. "Some kind of small animal. Should I target it separately?" Thrall looked at the honey badger and made a sound that was like laughing. "That little thing? It weighs nothing. Leave it. If it comes with the child, we can dispose of it later, or keep it to comfort her. A calm hostage is easier to manage than a screaming one." "Yes, Commander." The beam activated without any warning. 1 second, Emma was placing a stick on her fort wall. The next second, bright white light surrounded her completely. She did not even have time to scream. She felt like she was floating, and then everything went dark. When she woke up, she was lying on a cold metal floor. The room around her was white and empty. There were no windows. There was no door that she could see. The walls seemed to glow with their own light. Emma sat up slowly, her heart beating very fast. Where was she? Where was her mom and dad? Where was her house? Then she felt something warm press against her leg. She looked down and saw Biscuit. He was awake and alert, his body tense and his fur standing up along his back. His lips were pulled back slightly, showing his sharp teeth. A low growl was coming from deep in his chest. "Biscuit." Emma grabbed him and hugged him tight. Tears were already running down her face. "Biscuit, where are we? I want to go home." I want my mommy. Biscuit did not answer, of course. He was an animal, but he pressed closer to her and kept growling at the walls. His small eyes moved constantly, looking for danger, looking for threats. On the other side of those walls, Commander Thrall was feeling very pleased with himself. The capture had been perfect. No witnesses, no complications. The child was secure in the holding cell, and soon he would contact the human authorities with his demands. The humans have been part of the galactic community for only 15 of their years, he told Voss as they walked through the ship's corridor. They are still new, still weak, still learning how things work out here in the real universe. They have been expanding quickly, Voss said carefully. Some of the other species are impressed by them. Thrall made a dismissive sound. Impressed by what? They are soft creatures. They have no natural weapons, no claws, no venom, no armor. They cannot even survive in their own planet's weather without wearing artificial skins. He clicked his mandibles together. They are prey animals who got lucky and developed technology. Nothing more. And yet, they have already fought 2 wars with the Krix Confederation and won both. Thrall stopped walking and turned to face his lieutenant. They won because the Krix underestimated them. I will not make that mistake. I know exactly what humans are capable of. That is why I am using their weakness against them instead of fighting them directly. He continued walking, his heavy feet making loud sounds on the metal floor. By tomorrow, the human government will know we have one of their children. They will panic. They will cry. They will beg. And then they will give us exactly what we want. Back in the holding cell, Emma had stopped crying. She was sitting with her back against the wall, holding Biscuit in her lap. The honey badger had calmed down a little, but his eyes were still watching everything. His muscles were still tight and ready. Emma did not know what was going to happen. She did not understand where she was or who had taken her, but she knew one thing for certain. She was not completely alone. She had Biscuit, and Biscuit had never let anything hurt her before. "It's okay, boy," she whispered, even though she was not sure if it was okay at all. "We're going to be okay. Someone will come find us. Daddy will come find us." Biscuit looked up at her and made a small sound. Then he turned his attention back to the walls, back to the invisible threats, back to the world that had suddenly become very dangerous. He was a small animal. He weighed only 12 kilograms. His brain was tiny compared to the aliens who had taken his human. But inside that small body was something that the Velrani had never encountered before. Something that millions of years of evolution had created for one purpose and one purpose only: to never, ever give up. Emma did not know how much time had passed. There was no clock in the white room. There was no window to show if it was day or night. There was nothing at all except the cold floor, the glowing walls, and the strange hum of machines that she could feel more than hear. She was hungry. She was thirsty. She was scared. Biscuit had not moved from her side. He sat next to her like a small furry statue, his eyes never closing, his body never relaxing. Every few minutes, he would sniff the air and make a small growling sound. Emma did not know what he was smelling, but she trusted him. Biscuit always knew when something bad was coming. The wall suddenly made a sound, and a section of it slid open. Emma screamed and pushed herself back into the corner. Biscuit jumped to his feet immediately, placing his body between Emma and the opening. The creature that stepped through the door was like nothing Emma had ever seen. It was tall, much taller than her father. It had hard skin that looked like the shell of a beetle. It had 4 arms and 2 legs. Its face had large black eyes and a mouth with sharp parts that moved sideways instead of up and down. It was holding a bowl of something gray and a container of water. "Food," the creature said. Its voice sounded wrong, like it was coming from a machine instead of a living thing. "Eat. Emma was shaking so hard she could not speak. The creature took a step forward. Biscuit attacked. The honey badger moved so fast that Emma could barely see what happened. One moment he was standing in front of her. The next moment he was on the alien's leg, his claws digging into the spaces between the hard shell plates. The alien made a horrible screeching sound and dropped the bowl. Gray paste splashed everywhere. It tried to grab Biscuit with its 4 arms, but the honey badger was already climbing higher. His claws found another soft spot near the alien's middle section. Then another near its chest. Biscuit's teeth sank into something soft on the alien's neck. There was a crunching sound. Dark liquid sprayed across the white floor. The alien fell dot. It happened so fast. 10 seconds, maybe less. The creature that had seemed so big and scary was now lying on the ground, not moving. Dark liquid was pooling around its body. Its black eyes stared at nothing. Biscuit stood on top of it, breathing hard. His fur was wet with the dark liquid. His teeth were showing. A sound was coming from his throat that Emma had never heard before. It was not like his normal growl. It was deeper, angrier, more dangerous. Emma stared at her pet, her sweet Biscuit, who slept on her bed and ate treats from her hand. He looked like a completely different animal now. He looked like a monster. Then he turned and looked at her, and his eyes changed. The monster went away. He walked over to her, his body relaxing, and pressed his head against her leg. He made the small sound he always made when he wanted her to pet him. Emma's hands were shaking as she touched his wet fur. "Good boy," she whispered. Her voice was barely working. "Good boy, Biscuit." On the command deck of the ship, alarms were screaming. "What is happening?" Commander Thrall demanded. He was looking at multiple screens, but none of them were showing him anything useful. "Report. Guard Nexus is not responding," one of his crew members said. "His life signs have—" "Commander, his life signs have stopped." "Stopped? What do you mean, stopped?" "He is dead, Commander." Thrall felt something cold move through his body. Dead? That was impossible. Nexus had been sent to give food to a human child. There was nothing dangerous about that task. Nothing at all. "Show me the holding cell," he ordered. The screen changed to show the white room. Thrall saw the child sitting in the corner. He saw the body of Nexus lying in a pool of blood. And he saw the small furry creature standing guard over the child, its face wet with dark liquid. "What? What is that thing?" Thrall asked. His voice sounded strange to his own ears. "It is the Terran animal, Commander. The one we transported with the child. That little creature killed a Varani warrior?" "It appears so, Commander." Thrall was quiet for a long moment. He watched the small animal on the screen. It was cleaning itself now, licking the blood from its paws like it was nothing. Like killing a being 5 times its size was just a normal thing to do. "Find information on this creature," Thrall ordered. "Search the Terran databases. I want to know everything about it." It took only a few minutes. When the science officer read the results, his face changed color. "Commander, the creature is called a honey badger. Scientific name Mellivora capensis. Native to Africa and Asia on the human homeworld. And, Commander, according to human records, it is considered the most fearless animal on their planet." Thrall clicked his mandibles. "Fearless? It is the size of a small child. What does it have to be fearless about? The records say it regularly attacks creatures much larger than itself. Large cats, bears, crocodiles, venomous snakes." The science officer paused. "Commander, there are reports of honey badgers attacking adult rhinoceros. That is impossible." "There is more, Commander. The creature's skin is extremely thick and loose. It is very difficult to injure. It can resist most poisons. It has been documented surviving the venom of snakes that could kill 20 adult humans. Voss stepped closer to look at the data. It must have weaknesses. If it does, they are not listed here. The humans seem to consider this animal almost impossible to kill. The science officer looked up from his screen. Commander, there is one more thing. Human researchers have noted that honey badgers are extremely intelligent for animals of their size. They can solve complex problems. They can open locks. They can use tools. Thrall looked back at the screen. The honey badger was sitting next to the child now. It looked almost peaceful. Almost harmless. Almost. Send 2 more guards, Thrall said, armed with distance weapons. Kill the creature and remove its body. Yes, Commander. The 2 guards approached the holding cell carefully. They had heard what happened to Nexus. They were not going to make the same mistake. They would stay by the door and shoot the animal from a safe distance. The door opened. The guards raised their weapons. The cell was empty. No, not empty. The child was there, curled up in the corner with her eyes closed. But the creature was gone. Where did it? One guard started to say. The ceiling panel above them crashed down. Biscuit dropped onto the first guard's head, his claws finding the soft eye area instantly. The guard screamed and fired his weapon wildly. The shot hit the second guard in the chest. Before either of them could recover, Biscuit had finished his work. 2 more bodies lay on the floor. The honey badger jumped down and walked back to Emma. She opened her eyes and looked at him. She was not as scared this time. She was starting to understand. Biscuit sat down next to her and began cleaning himself again. On the command deck, Thrall watched in silence. 3 guards dead. 3 warriors killed by an animal that weighed 12 kilograms. Commander, Voss said quietly. What do we do? Thrall did not answer. For the first time in his very long career, he did not know. 3 days passed on the Varani ship. 3 days that felt like 3 years to Commander Thrall. He had tried everything. Every tactic. Every weapon. Every strategy he had learned in 40 years of service to the Volrani Empire. None of it worked. On the first day after the initial killings, he sent 5 guards together. They moved in formation. They watched every corner, every shadow, every ceiling panel. They were professional soldiers who had conquered entire planets. The honey badger killed 2 of them before the others could even fire their weapons. Then it disappeared into the ship's ventilation system like a ghost. The 3 survivors ran back to the main deck, refusing to ever go near the holding area again. Thrall tried gas next. He pumped sleeping chemicals into the entire holding section. The kind of gas that could knock out a Volrani warrior in 3 breaths. He watched on the cameras as the white mist filled the cell. The child coughed and covered her face with her shirt. She looked sick and dizzy. The honey badger barely reacted. It sniffed the air, sneezed once, and kept watching the door. After an hour, Thrall had to stop the gas because the child was turning blue. But the creature was still awake, still alert, still ready. How is this possible? Thrall demanded. No living thing should be able to survive that concentration. His science officer was studying data with a desperate expression. Commander, I found more information. The honey badger has special resistance to poisons and toxins. On Earth, it eats snakes that are highly venomous. It raids beehives and ignores hundreds of stings. Its body has evolved to survive chemical attacks that would kill almost any other creature. Then we use fire. Commander, the child. Burn the creature out. The child will survive minor burns. They tried fire. They pumped hot plasma through the vents into the holding section. The temperature rose to levels that would cook most organic beings. The child screamed and cried. Her skin turned red. Thrall felt a small twinge of guilt, but pushed it away. The mission was more important than one human child's comfort. But when the heat stopped and the cameras came back online, the honey badger was still there. Its fur was singed. Its skin looked irritated, but it was alive. And now it looked angry. The skin, the science officer whispered. The research said its skin is extremely thick and loose. It acts like armor. Heat, cold, pressure. The creature can survive things that would kill others. Nothing is invincible. Thrall slammed his fist against the console. Every creature has a weakness. Commander, I have been searching for 2 days. If this creature has weaknesses, human science has not found them. Voss stepped forward carefully. Perhaps we should try a different approach. The creature protects the child. If we could separate them, how? The creature moves through our ventilation system freely now. It knows the ship better than we do. 3 more crew members have been attacked in the corridors. Then we stopped going near the holding area completely. We starved them out. Thrall considered this. It was not a proud strategy, but pride was starting to matter less than survival. Do it. No one goes near that section. No food, no water. We wait. For 2 days, nothing entered the holding section. Thrall watched the cameras obsessively. He saw the child grow weaker. She stopped moving so much. She stopped crying. She just sat against the wall with her eyes half closed. But the honey badger did not weaken. It left the cell through the vents and came back with things. Dead insects that lived in the ship's mechanical areas. Moisture collected from pipes. Small amounts of food stolen from the crew quarters. It brought everything back to the child and dropped it in front of her. Emma ate the insects without complaint. She was past the point of being disgusted by anything. She just wanted to survive. And somehow, Biscuit was making that possible. On the 3rd day, the honey badger did something that made Thrall's blood run cold. It found its way to the ship's water recycling system and broke 3 pipes. Emergency alarms screamed throughout the vessel. Water flooded the lower decks. The crew had to spend 6 hours making repairs while watching constantly over their shoulders for the small furry demon. It is intelligent, Voss said. His voice was barely a whisper. It is not just attacking us. It is sabotaging our ship. Impossible. It is an animal that found our water system, an animal that knew exactly which pipes to break. Voss shook his head. Commander, I do not think we are dealing with a simple animal anymore. Thrall wanted to argue, but he could not. The evidence was right in front of him. The honey badger was not just surviving. It was fighting back. It was winning. In the holding cell, Emma had started to feel something she had not felt since she was taken. Hope. She watched Biscuit come and go through the vents. She saw him bring her food and water. She heard the distant alarms and knew somehow that he was causing them. Her pet, her best friend, her 12-kilogram ball of fur and teeth. He was taking on an entire alien spaceship, and he was winning. Good boy, Biscuit, she whispered when he came back from one of his trips. He was carrying a piece of some kind of alien fruit. Where he found it, she did not know. She did not care. She ate it and felt a little stronger. Biscuit curled up next to her and closed his eyes for the first time in 3 days. He slept lightly, his ears still moving, still listening for danger. Even in rest, he was ready. Emma put her hand on his side and felt his heartbeat. It was slow and steady. He was not scared at all. He had never been scared. You're not going to let them hurt me, are you? She asked softly. Biscuit opened one eye, looked at her, and made a small sound. Then he closed his eye again. No, he was never going to let anyone hurt her. That was his purpose. That was his mission. That was what millions of years of evolution had designed him to do. Protect what was his. On the command deck, Thrall received a communication that made his already terrible situation much worse. Commander, his communications officer said, We are detecting a ship approaching. Fast. What ship? It is human, Commander. A military vessel. They are heading directly for us. Thrall closed his eyes. Of course. Of course the humans had found them. The universe was apparently not done punishing him today. How long until they arrive? 6 hours, Commander. 6 hours. In 6 hours, he would have to face the humans. He would have to negotiate from a position of weakness. He would have to admit that one tiny furry creature had killed 11 of his warriors and brought his ship to its knees. His career was over. His reputation was destroyed. All because he had underestimated a 12-kilogram animal with anger problems. Commander? Voss asked. What are your orders? Thrall opened his eyes and looked at the screen showing the holding cell. The child was sleeping now, curled around the honey badger like it was a stuffed toy. The creature was sleeping too, but even in sleep, it looked dangerous. We prepare for the humans, Thrall said, and we pray to whatever gods are listening that they do not bring more of those demons with them. Captain David Miller had not slept in 4 days. He had not eaten a real meal. He had not thought about anything except one thing: finding Emma Thompson, the USS. Relentless was the fastest ship in Earth's small but growing space fleet. It was built for exactly this kind of mission. Search and rescue. Find the lost. Bring them home. David had commanded it for 3 years, and in that time, he had saved hundreds of lives. But this mission was different. This was a child. A 7-year-old girl taken from her own backyard by aliens who thought they could use her as a bargaining chip. The thought made David's hands shake with anger. He stood on the command deck, looking at the viewing screen. The Volney ship was visible now, a dark shape against the stars. It looked like a giant insect, which made sense because its crew were giant insects. David had studied everything he could find about the Volney during the chase. They were conquerors, slavers, kidnappers. They had done this to dozens of other species before humanity joined the galactic community. They had never done it to humanity before. They were about to learn why that was a mistake. Captain, we are within communication range. Lieutenant Park reported from her station. She was young, barely 25, but she was the best communications officer David had ever worked with. Open a channel. The screen changed to show the inside of the Volney command deck. David saw the commander immediately. He was bigger than the others, with darker shell skin and eyes that somehow looked tired. Commander Thrall, I assume, David said. His voice was calm and cold. I am Captain David Miller of the human vessel Relentless. You have something that belongs to us. Thrall's mandibles clicked together slowly. Captain Miller, you have come a long way. Not far enough. Return the child immediately, and we might let you live. You are one ship. I have 17 warriors. David smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Interesting. Our scans show only 6 life signs moving around your ship. 11 of your crew appear to be dead. That is a lot of casualties for a ship that has not been in combat. Thrall was silent. Let me guess, David continued. The honey badger? The reaction was immediate. Thrall's eyes widened. His mandibles opened and closed rapidly. On the screen, David could see the other Volney crew members looking at each other with fear. You know about the creature? Thrall asked. Every human knows about honey badgers, Commander. They are one of our planet's most famous animals. Fearless, violent, absolutely impossible to stop once they decide something belongs to them. David leaned forward. You kidnapped a child who owns one. How is that working out for you? The creature is a demon. No, it is just a honey badger. They are all like that. Every single one. David's smile grew wider. Fun fact, Commander. On Earth, there are thousands of honey badgers. We also have lions, tigers, bears, crocodiles, sharks, wolves, and about 1 million other predators. We grew up surrounded by things that wanted to eat us. We not only survived, we conquered them all. Your point, Captain? My point is that humans are not the soft, weak creatures you thought we were. We come from a death world, Commander. Everything on our planet is trying to kill everything else, all the time. We are the species that looked at wolves and said, let's make them into pets. We are the species that saw fire and said, let's cook with that. We are the species that climbed out of trees, walked across continents, and built spaceships to take us to the stars. David stood up and walked closer to the screen. You thought you could take one of our children and use her against us. You thought wrong. The honey badger is just the beginning. In about 2 hours, my Marines are going to board your ship. They are going to find Emma Thompson. And then they are going to explain to you, personally, why kidnapping human children is a very bad idea. If you attack, the child might be harmed, Thrall said. But his voice was weak. He did not sound like he believed his own threat anymore. The child has a honey badger protecting her. I am not worried about her safety. David sat back down. 2 hours, Commander. Use that time wisely. I suggest you say goodbye to anyone you care about. The communication ended. In the Marine ready room of the Relentless, Sergeant Maria Torres was preparing her team. There were 12 of them, all wearing the newest powered armor that Earth had designed. The armor made them stronger, faster, and harder to kill. It also made them look terrifying, which was intentional. Listen up, Torres said. The target is a 7-year-old girl named Emma Thompson. She's being held in the forward section of the ship. Our scan showed 2 life signs in that area. One is Emma. The other is a honey badger. A what? One of the Marines asked. A honey badger. It is her pet. According to the ship's life sign readings, it has killed 11 Varingi crew members in the past 3 days. The Marines looked at each other. One of them laughed nervously. An animal killed 11 aliens? Do not underestimate it. Honey badgers are extremely dangerous. They feel no fear and they never give up. When we find Emma, do not threaten the animal and do not make sudden moves near the girl. Let it see that we are friends, not enemies. Understood, Sergeant. Torres nodded. The rest of the ship has 6 hostiles. Standard rules apply. If they surrender, we take them prisoner. If they resist, we put them down. But the priority is the child. We get Emma Thompson and we bring her home. Questions? No one had questions. Good. We launch in 90 minutes. Back on the Velony ship, Thrall was facing the first real defeat of his life. His crew had gathered on the command deck, looking at him with fear and confusion. They wanted him to save them. They wanted him to have a plan. He had nothing. Commander, Voss said quietly, the humans will show no mercy. I know. Perhaps if we surrendered, gave the child back peacefully, they will still board us. They will still want justice for the taking. Thrall's mandibles clicked slowly. 11 dead. Our reputation is destroyed. Even if we survive this, we will be laughing stocks throughout the Empire. At least we would be alive. Thrall considered this. His pride wanted him to fight, to die like a warrior. But his pride had already cost him 11 crew members. Pride had made him ignore the warnings about the honey badger. Pride had convinced him that a tiny earth creature could not possibly be dangerous. Lower all weapons, Thrall ordered. Open all doors. When the humans board, we offer no resistance. Commander? Do it. I am tired of dying for my pride. The crew obeyed, relief visible on their faces. No one wanted to fight anymore. No one wanted to die. They just wanted to survive this nightmare and never think about honey badgers ever again. In the holding cell, Emma was awake. She had heard the distant sounds of alarms. She had felt the ship slowing down. Something was happening. Something was changing. Biscuit was awake too. He was standing near the door, his body tense, his nose working overtime. He could smell something new. Something different. Emma watched him carefully. "What is it, boy? What do you smell?" Biscuit looked back at her. For a moment, his body relaxed slightly. His tail moved just a little, almost like a wag. Then he turned back to the door and waited. He knew something Emma did not know yet. Something his animal senses had figured out before any computer or scanner could. Help was coming. Their people were here. He just had to keep her safe a little longer. The boarding was quick and clean. The Velrani had surrendered completely. They stood in the corridors with their arms raised, their weapons on the floor, their eyes filled with defeat. The human Marines moved past them like ghosts, barely stopping to secure prisoners. Sergeant Torres led her team through the ship, following the life sign readings toward the holding area. The corridors were strange and alien, designed for creatures very different from humans. The lighting was wrong. The air smelled like something chemical and bitter. Everything felt hostile, but Torres had been in hostile places before. She kept moving. They found the bodies along the way. Velrani warriors lying where they had fallen. Torres looked at the wounds and felt her stomach turn. The injuries were brutal, precise, made by something small and incredibly vicious. "Stay sharp," she told her team. "The honey badger is still loose somewhere." They reached the holding area. The door was already open, just like Commander Threll had promised. Torres stepped through first, her weapon ready, her eyes scanning for threats. The room was white and mostly empty. In the corner, she saw a small figure pressed against the wall. A little girl with dirty blonde hair and a face that was thin and tired, but still alive. Still breathing. And sitting in front of her, like a furry guardian statue, was the honey badger. Biscuit looked at Torres with eyes that held no fear. His fur was matted with dried blood. His claws were stained dark. A low growl rumbled in his chest, warning her not to come closer. Torres stopped immediately. She remembered her own briefing. Do not threaten the animal. Let it see you are a friend. Slowly, very slowly, she lowered her weapon. She raised her hands so the honey badger could see them. Empty, harmless. "Hey there, sweetheart," Torres said softly, looking past the animal to the child. "My name is Maria. I am a friend. Your mom and dad sent me to bring you home." Emma's eyes went wide. "My mommy? My daddy? They are waiting for you. They miss you very much." Torres took one small step forward. Biscuit's growl got louder. She stopped. "Your friend there has been taking very good care of you, has not he?" "Biscuit saved me," Emma said. Her voice was weak and scratchy from days without proper water. "He fought the monsters. He brought me food. He's a very good boy," Torres agreed. "The best boy. I am not going to hurt either of you, okay? I just want to take you both home." Biscuit watched her carefully. His small eyes moved between Torres and the Marines behind her. He was calculating, deciding. After everything he had been through, he was not going to trust easily. Emma reached down and put her hand on his back. "It is okay, Biscuit," she whispered. "She is one of us. She is human." The honey badger looked up at his girl. Something passed between them? Some understanding that went beyond words, beyond species. Biscuit's growl faded. He stepped aside, allowing Torres to approach. Torres moved forward slowly and knelt down in front of Emma. Up close, she could see how much the girl had been through. She was thin. She was pale. She had circles under her eyes from days of stress and fear. But she was alive and mostly unharmed. "You are so brave," Torres said. "You are the bravest girl I have ever met." "Biscuit is the brave one," Emma replied. "He was never scared. Not even once. Torres looked at the honey badger. He was sitting calmly now, watching the Marines secure the room. Despite his small size, there was something about him that commanded respect. Something that said, "I have seen worse than you. I have survived worse than you. Do not test me." "Yes," Torres agreed. "I think you were right about that." She picked Emma up carefully. The girl weighed almost nothing after days without proper food. Biscuit immediately jumped up and positioned himself at Torres's feet, ready to follow wherever his human went. "Let's go home," Torres said. The trip back to the Relentless took only minutes. But those minutes felt like hours to Emma. She clung to Sergeant Torres, her face buried in the Marine's armored shoulder. She did not look at the alien ship. She did not want to see it ever again. Biscuit trotted alongside them, his head held high. He looked like a conquering general returning from war. When they reached the Relentless, Captain Miller was waiting at the airlock. He watched the Marines file in, carrying the small child who had somehow survived a nightmare no 7-year-old should ever face. Then he saw the honey badger. The animal was small, smaller than David had expected. Its fur was dirty and matted. Its eyes were tired. But when it looked at him, David felt something he rarely felt anymore: respect. "You did good, little guy," he said quietly. "You did really good." Biscuit looked at him for a moment. Then he followed Torres toward the medical bay, staying close to Emma. The next few days were a blur of activity. Emma was treated by the ship's doctors. She was given food, water, medicine, and lots of sleep. Her parents were contacted and informed that their daughter was safe. The crying on both ends of that call was loud enough to be heard throughout the ship. Biscuit was treated too, although he did not make it easy for the medical staff. He growled at anyone who came near him with instruments or needles. In the end, they had to let Emma sit with him while they worked, her small hand on his back, the only thing keeping him calm. Commander Thrall and his surviving crew were taken into custody. They would face trial for their crimes, not just against Emma, but against all the other species they had hurt over the years. The humans made sure other galactic governments knew about the arrest. They wanted everyone to understand what happened when someone tried to hurt a human child. But the bigger story, the one that spread across the galaxy like fire through dry grass, was about the honey badger. Xenobiologists from 100 different planets requested information about the creature. They could not believe that such a small animal could do so much damage. They studied the footage from the Vorani ship with horror and fascination. The Vorani Empire officially added honey badgers to their list of creatures that should never be approached under any circumstances. The list included things like black holes and certain types of stars. The honey badger was the only biological creature on it. Traders who worked with humans started asking more questions about Earth's wildlife. What they learned made many of them reconsider their approach to humanity. Wolves, lions, great white sharks, Komodo dragons, box jellyfish, cone snails, mosquitoes. Earth was apparently a planet where everything was trying to kill everything else, all the time, and humans had not just survived there. They had thrived. They had conquered. They had turned some of those deadly creatures into pets. The galactic community began to look at humanity differently after that. These were not the soft, emotional creatures they had assumed. These were survivors of a death world. These were beings who laughed at danger and kept monsters as companions. 6 months later, Emma Thompson was back home in Montana. Her fort in the backyard had been finished by her father while she was gone. She played in it every day, usually with Biscuit lying nearby, watching over her like always. The nightmares came sometimes. She would wake up screaming, seeing alien faces and white walls. But Biscuit was always there, pressing against her side, reminding her that she was safe, that no one would ever hurt her while he was around. Her parents had talked about giving Biscuit a medal, which was silly because he was an animal and did not care about medals. Instead, they gave him extra treats and a new bed and all the love they could offer. One evening, Emma was sitting on the porch with Biscuit when her father came out to join them. Robert Thompson looked at his daughter and her strange, wonderful pet. He had almost lost her. He had almost lost everything that mattered. "You know," he said, "people from all over the world have been calling. Reporters, scientists, government officials. They all want to meet Biscuit. They call him a hero." Emma scratched behind Biscuit's ears. The honey badger made a content sound and closed his eyes. "He is not a hero," Emma said. "He's just Biscuit. He was just doing what he always does." "What is that?" "Taking care of me." Robert smiled and sat down next to his daughter. He looked out at the sunset painting the sky in colors of gold and pink, the same colors that had filled the sky on the evening she was taken. "Well," he said, "I think that makes him the best kind of hero, the kind who does not even know he is one." Biscuit opened one eye and looked at Robert. His expression seemed to say, "Of course, I do not know. I do not care about such things. I only care about my human, and I always will dive far across the galaxy." In the archives of 1,000 different species, a new entry was being added to Earth's catalog. It read, "Honeybait GER species, Mellivora capensis homeworld, Earth threat level, extremed, not approach. Do not threaten. Do not, under any circumstances, harm anything they have claimed as theirs." And below that, in smaller text that would be read by scholars and warriors and traders for generations to come, "The humans were not the warning. The humans were the restraint." Emma Thompson and Biscuit lived happily for many more years. She grew up to become a xenobiologist, studying the creatures of other worlds. Biscuit stayed by her side until his last day, loyal and fearless to the very end. And somewhere in the vast emptiness of space, aliens still told stories about the tiny Earth creature that had fought an army and won. The creature that felt no fear. The creature that never gave up. The honey badger. The guardian. The legend.